I didn't believe security cameras could look away. But at 2:13 a.m., and when it came back, it had turned, just a little, like it didn't want to see what was coming down that hallway. I was a night shift security guard at a distribution warehouse outside town. Not a mall, not a bank, just a low, wide building that smelled like cardboard, diesel, and old concrete. The kind of place that's loud during the day, forklifts, radios, loading bays, and too quiet at night. My office was a glass booth near the employee entrance. 2 monitors, a beat-up keyboard, a logbook, and a phone that mostly existed to remind you no one calls at 2 a.m. There were 12 cameras total. Most of them were boring. Parking lot, loading docks, break room, the main gate. If anything happened in that building after hours, it would be there. And on my first week, my supervisor told me, half joking, "If anything ever feels off, check 6. It was raining that night. Not the dramatic kind, just a steady, cold drizzle that makes everything shine under bad lighting. I remember because the parking lot reflections looked like oil. I did my rounds on schedule, checked doors, wrote times in the logbook like it mattered. At 2:10 a.m., I poured stale coffee. At 2:12 a.m., I sat down and looked at the screens, same as always. And then, right on 2:13, the feed didn't just glitch. It cut to black, clean, like someone had unplugged it. No static, no distortion, just a dead screen labeled, "No signal." I leaned in, tapped the side of the monitor like an idiot, and after maybe 8 or 9 seconds, it came back. Same corridor, same lights, same empty floor. Except the camera was tilted down a few degrees, so instead of seeing the far end of the hallway, it mostly saw the floor and a strip of wall. I thought, loose mount, or an auto-calibration, or cheap hardware. So I wrote it down and kept watching. Our camera system had a basic event log. Timestamps, motion alerts, door contacts, and for the PTZ cameras, little notes when someone adjusted the angle. I clicked the log for camera number 6 expecting signal lost. It was there. But underneath it was another entry I didn't understand. A manual tilt means someone moved it with the controls. But user blank made no sense. You can't control PTZ without logging in. That was the whole point. I told myself it was a software quirk and moved on, because that's what you do at night. You explain things away so the silence doesn't win. The next night it happened again. Same rain, same quiet, same job. At 2:12, I actually opened camera number 6 full screen and watched it like I was daring it to fail. I stared at the corridor until my eyes stopped trying to invent movement. 2:13 a.m., black screen. Then back. Tilted down again, like someone nudged it and left it there. This time I didn't pretend it was nothing. I called the supervisor. No answer. It went to voicemail with that cheerful daytime voice that didn't belong in the middle of the night. So I did the only thing I could. I corrected the camera angle with the PTZ controls. The corridor snapped back into view, and I sat there, waiting for it to happen a third time. It was quiet enough that I could hear the rain tick against the booth window. I could hear the building settle, metal popping, distant vents breathing. At 2:41, a motion alert popped on camera number 6. I glanced up, expecting a moth near the lens or a forklift shadow from outside lighting. But the corridor was empty. Then I heard it. Not loud, not dramatic. Footsteps. Soft and measured, like rubber soles on concrete. I turned the audio up on the monitor, even though those cameras didn't record sound. It was a reflex. Like leaning closer to a door makes you hear better. The motion alert triggered again. And right then, like on cue, camera number 6 dipped. The same slow tilt down. Not a jerk, not a glitch. A smooth, deliberate movement. I grabbed the mouse and tried to correct it. The controls lagged, and for a second it felt like something was fighting me. Not in a supernatural way, in a mechanical way, like two hands on the same steering wheel. The footsteps got closer, and the camera kept staring at the floor. I stood up so fast my chair squealed. I hated that sound. It made me feel like I'd announced myself to the whole building. The corridor door wasn't far from the booth, maybe 30 feet. A solid interior door with a narrow wired glass window. I watched that door while the camera watched the floor. Footsteps, then silence, then a faint click, like a fingernail on glass. I sat down and pulled the log again. There it was again, user blank. Like whoever did it wasn't inside the software, like they didn't need a password. That's when I remembered something my coworker said during training. He told me the warehouse had an old service panel in the corridor, a maintenance access where techs could plug in a handheld joystick to test the PTZ cameras locally. No login, no audit trail, just control. And that joystick was supposed to be locked up. We had a small cabinet under the desk where the spare keys and tools were kept. I opened it. Inside was a flashlight, spare batteries, a clipboard, and an empty foam cutout where the PTZ controller should have been. My throat went dry in that instant. Not panic, more like my body realized something before my brain wanted to admit it. Because missing equipment isn't a ghost story, it's a person story. I called my supervisor again. This time he answered, voice thick with sleep. I told him, camera number 6 keeps tilting down. There's a local manual tilt entry with no user, and the PTZ controller is missing from the cabinet. He didn't ask me to repeat it. He didn't say, that's weird. He just said, very quietly, stay in the booth. I asked him why, and he said something I still think about when I'm alone in quiet rooms. Because whoever's moving it knows where you are. After I hung up, I pulled up the multi-camera grid. Then I saw the first thing that made my skin crawl, and a shape passing through it. Just a shoulder maybe, a hood. Gone in 2 seconds. I leaned forward and scrubbed back. There it was again, a person, inside the building, moving in the only corridor that camera number 6 had accidentally stopped watching. And then, like it heard me thinking too loudly, camera number 6 moved again. But this time it didn't tilt down, it tilted up, slowly, smoothly, until it was pointed the wrong way, not down the corridor, but back toward the booth door. It felt like eye contact, not mystical, not haunted, just personal. In that moment, the word glitch died in my head. This wasn't random. This wasn't broken hardware. This was someone using a blind spot like a hallway mirror, moving the camera away from where they were and toward where I was. I hit record on the system capture. Then I opened the live log panel and watched it update in real time. Local control. So whoever had the joystick wasn't in the booth. They were in the corridor, near that service panel, close enough to hear the same footsteps I heard. I grabbed the flashlight, but I didn't leave, because I could hear them again. Footsteps. Slow. Controlled. Stopping. Starting. Like they were listening for me to do something stupid. Then a new sound. A faint metallic tap, followed by the quietest scrape, like plastic against painted metal. Like a panel being opened. I called 911. My voice sounded calm even to me, which felt wrong. I told them, warehouse, night shift, possible intruder, cameras being controlled locally. I'm in a locked security booth. While I was on the line, the corridor door handle moved. Not violently, just a test. Left. Right. Like someone checking how much give it had. The dispatcher asked if I could see the person. I looked up at camera number 6, now pointed straight at the corridor section outside my booth. The lighting washed out the far edge, but I could see movement. A figure, hood up, stepping just into frame, and then stopping exactly where the camera exposure made them a smudge, like they knew the limits of what the sensor could capture. They didn't rush the booth. They didn't run. They just stood there. And then the camera tilted down again. Right before the figure moved out of view. Avoidance. That's all it was. A person avoiding being seen, using my own system like a flashlight pointed the wrong way. The police arrived fast. They cleared the corridors and found the service panel half open. Inside, plugged into a local port, was the missing PTZ joystick, still warm from someone's hand. They found a cheap rain jacket tucked behind pallets, a protein bar wrapper, a notepad with camera numbers and arrows, and a list of times, 2:13 circled so hard the pen tore the paper. Whoever it was didn't want a confrontation. They wanted access. They wanted to move through the building without ever being caught on tape. I quit the next day. Not because I was scared of the dark, because I realized something simple. A camera doesn't protect you if the wrong person knows how to make it look away. If you want more night shift files, I've got plenty. Just don't ask me to check camera number 6 again.